Hello everyone, welcome back to Yellow Card Vanguard. Zystral and Toku here, bringing you round 4 of our VGCS commentary. So round 2 we saw some standard, Prison vs Magnolia. Round 3 we've seen some premium of Eradicators vs Grand Blue. And so to round it all off, for round 4 we're going to see some V. So on the left we have Vanquisher, and on the right we have Astral Poets. So just to remind everyone about how the event worked, this was a trios mixed format event, so every member of each team was playing a different format. So we're just making our way through all of the formats so far, and we're just going to jump straight into it. So we've got Poets versus Vanquisher, which I think is a very interesting matchup. I think it's the epitome of Tier 2V right now, right?
I think that's a good way to put it. Very like Tier 2V. They're both really strong in their own rights. I think they're just missing a little bit to jump into that Tier 1 that we see a lot of like the big names like Prism, Luard, dominate at the moment.
Yeah, so we see here Astral Poets goes first, and they have the Baycrux into Arcturus, chain search going on, which is really solid.
Mm-hmm.
And they're going to DK as well.
Oh, we also see the DK coming out, so just using their first turn to set up as much as they can. Actually putting the Arcturus that they had to go find out another Astral Poet into their hand, and just doing a lot of setup there. I don't believe I know what that card is, but it looks like the Eonisis Dragon, the PG for this deck.
Yeah. So adding 1 means they don't get the extra marker, which is a shame. But putting in the Arcturus for cost is, to me, that tells me they have a second one in hand. Like, no way they don't. Oh, some zooming going on there. So now that you know that your opponent has an Arcturus ready to ride, as Vanquisher, do you even attack? I think this value is just passing turn here to deny them the Counterblast 1, make a marker, right?
Yeah, I think so as well. Because the faster they get to those 5 markers, the faster they get to Valkyrion. The faster they get to Valkyrion, the more chances for you to eat 5 crits in the face and die.
Yep. So Mighty Bolt there, finding a Jaggy Shot. We don't know. I can't see if he has a Vanquisher in hand already yet or not. Just going to discard the Quick Shield. Putting the Mighty Bolt in the front row is that's a powerful message, though.
It's a power message. It is saying that I am gonna plan to attack you this turn. I don't really care if you have the Arcturus in hand. Take this and hold the 2 damage.
Yeah, he's going for it, and I mean, obviously, as Astral Poets, you're happy to I'd be happy to take the 2nd damage.
Absolutely.
Maybe not this crit though.
Maybe not the 3rd damage. Maybe not the 3rd.
But I mean, he's got an early lead in, which is nice, but I don't think this is a deck that you want that early, you don't want to be rushing that aggressively, because every counterblast they use, every counterblast they get is something they can use. Like we saw, I don't know if you saw it watching it back, but we got a glimpse of the Gleipnir in Astral Poets' hand. Yeah, I do see a Gleipnir as well. That's again, like every piece of counterblast you give them is just going to be plussing, and plussing is very threatening for a deck like this.
And I think what's important to mention as well is that Genesis as a clan lacks a good source of countercharge. And as they are continually on higher damage than you are, their heals will always be live. And their heals will then act as a countercharge that the deck needs. So by being in this position, if they were to get a heal this turn, they're actually choosing to just flip their entire damage zone face down to get that extra force marker. It's looking like they're going to be able to get to that 5 force on that turn 3. I mean,
I really like this plan of rushing them back, right? Because going first, Vanquisher isn't going to bind any of your things on turn 2. Like, at best, they Raicho and bind one thing. So anything you commit here now is just free damage.
Yeah, we're going very aggressive here.
Yeah, but we saw, especially, he took the crit, he has 3 damage, and he effectively used all of his counterblast. He called an Arcturus, drew a card, gained a force marker, called a Gleipnir, added back the Arcturus, and then called the Arcturus again, counterblast 1, gained another force marker, and drew an extra card. That's... he's still overall card, hand neutral, and now he's just, getting this free damage in against this Vanquisher player.
Yeah, and I think what's really good to mention as well is the fact that the booster Uranus doesn't need counterblast. So whether or not these 2 rearguards are in the front row doesn't matter to the Astral Poets player.
Yeah, and we also know that he has the Valkyrian in hand, so he doesn't need Counterblast 1 to search off the Eos Anisex either. he just has to ride, get a force marker, open the astral plane, and slam that Valkyria.
Yeah, not to mention that the Uranus is also not restricted to your Vanguard, opponent's Vanguard being grade 3 or higher. So, this upcoming turn, we've got the Valkyrion, we've got the Uranus, we've got the 3 force markers. We can see a very strong push coming from Genesis side of things here.
Meanwhile, the Vanquisher player has to commit a Bajan from hand just to hit. But he's attacking Rearguard. I don't see the point in making a booster if you're just going to swing at Rearguard, right? I'd just save the 10k shield. Because now that Mighty Bolt's just not doing anything.
Yeah.
Like, if you're going to damage now, you damage now anyway, because that Gleipnir's not doing anything, right? The
Gleipnir has done its job.
And he wants, Astral Post is probably going to replace that card with a grade 3 to use Uranus anyway, but he rides the Eos Anasis.
Wait a minute, that's not a Uranus. That's not a Uranus.
Yeah, that's Eos Anasis. So maybe he doesn't have Uranus. That's quite incredible.
Maybe that's why the DK had to come down early to find the Uranus, and that's why we're seeing the Gleipnir come down early as well to hopefully soul charge that Uranus off the top.
This is such a vanilla turn for Poets. Is this how Vanquisher gets back into the game?
This might be it. Yeah. Poets had the turn. They had everything they needed to be able to have this really strong windmill slam going into your opponent's grade 3 turn, but unfortunately not able to have the Uranus needed to perform it. So just missing that one piece. And this is probably one of the reasons why we allude to this deck being in that tier 2 rather than top tier.
Yeah. I also want to take a moment to discuss the fact that the Astral Poets player is going for Force 1. We're seeing a lot of people move towards Force 2 recently, just for the early game, rush, catch your opponent off guard, be gotcha with the turn 2, turn 3, 1-2 swing. But instead he's going for Force 1, which is even more interesting given that he had the massive setup, right? He had the double Arcturus, he didn't have the Uranus, but then surely without Uranus, that's even more reason to go into Force 2, right? Because then this Vanguard swing, which was just a 43k, I would rather have a 13 with pressure than what he did last turn. So it's quite interesting that he chose to go that route.
It was too easy to declare no guard on that attack.
Exactly.
Whereas with that 13 with the crit, it is
that he didn't
easier
have
to
anything
guard.
else. He didn't have anything else in hand, so there was no. If he knew that he was riding Eos Anasis, there was no way that he was going to get 5 markers on turn 3. So at that point, you would have just taken Force 2 and then used the on-ride Force 2 onto the back row middle slot, and then set up for the Valkyria next turn. I think would have been a lot more. I think it would have been a lot smarter use of resources.
Yeah, I think knowing that. I think it's more so playing towards what you currently see rather than what you currently plan to see, right? If your hand does not have the Uranus and you're playing Force 1 to play towards hoping drive checking, hoping drawing into the Uranus, that is basically hubristic, I want to say. Whereas your consistent ride, the card that you're guaranteed to ride if you don't see Uranus is the Dionysus. Probably better to go for that Force 2, as you had said.
Yeah, so we haven't seen the full Bronto from Vanquisher yet. He might already have it in hand, but we see here that he hasn't gotten the plus 10k to the front row on his first swing. So this Jaggy shot doesn't actually hit.
And I do believe Jaggy Shot has to attack Vanguard as well.
So there's the full Bronto. Okay, so he did have it. And then, so that on attack, it binds the other front row.
Yeah.
But again,
and that gets us a draw.
But again, this is not some massive wombo combo turn that we're used to Vanquish seeing, right? It's just very mid. He's not doing anything to threaten that massive grip that Astral Post is holding onto.
Yeah, luckily we do have that full Bronto coming down during the attack, which does help the Jagged Shot hit. But these aren't amazingly huge attacks. This doesn't break the 28k threshold, which requires a trigger plus a card to guard.
Yeah, so this is just going to be the Jagged Shot coming in with 22. There's only 10k to guard. Nothing impressive. And we know that he drove checked a Chain Bolt just now, so he can continue the multi-attacks with his Rock Climb and his Jaggy Shot. But again, those numbers they're not going to be threatening at all. Especially because they're coming in after the full Bronto, so they're not going to have the plus 10k from the on-ride.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is that Rock Climb's at 24, but it's not doing anything else. If he Chain Bolts here, that Chain Bolt's is going to be 13, and attacking with Vanguard now, so there's not even going to be the chance of putting triggers onto that Chain Bolt.
Maybe no, but like you definitely want to bind the Chain Bolt from hand anyways, because that is a +1 to board. If your opponent doesn't get a defensive trigger, that is still pulling 5k out of their hands. And we do have to like respect the fact that because our opponent is playing Astral Poets, their deck is heavily tilted towards grade 3s and grade 5s, which don't have inherent shield value outside of Eonisis with its PG skill. So even a 5k to guard can sometimes come up huge in this kind of matchup where your hand is just tilted towards 0 guard and 15 guard.
Yeah, that's totally fair. At the same time, I would have been inclined to just no guard the swing, because we saw from the second point of damage the Vanquisher took, he's playing draw triggers. And so that to me alleviates the amount of crit pressure that the deck normally has otherwise. So I would have just taken the risk of the one drive not being a crit. And yeah, we saw it's a draw there, but we know that the Vanquisher plays some crits, but it's still not that many. So it would have been worth the risk. Even though you're on 4 damage, like getting that defensive down on the Vanguard swing turns off the other attacks this turn.
Point out that our Vanquisher player opted to not use Jaggy's second skill to push it back into Soul and draw a card. I think especially against a deck like Astral Pulse, which has sky-high offensive power, being able to convert 0k shield on board to any possible amount into hand is probably a better choice.
Yeah, like
we do see the Shatra come out though.
I mean, you definitely want to dig for PGs for the Valkyrian that you definitely know is coming down next turn. The Shatra is nice, but again, like I would have considered putting it down before the Vanguard swing. That way you could have made it 38 rather than 28.
Yeah, 38 with the on-hit pressure as well. 2 draws another card, 2 bind from the drop, 2 bind. The Shatra just, yeah, I think the thing with Vanquisher is there's a lot of like intricate timings with when cards get bind, when they get called out, stuff like Rising Phoenix as well, that you want to get the utmost value out of the card and the 10k buffs. Obviously, it means more on this first turn where you aren't able to get the 10k buff from the original Vanquisher, whereas Full Bronto comes out and gives 10k to everything else. But regardless, we are going to just see straight up, like we said, the deck being so heavily tilted towards that grade 3, grade 5 set of cards, low amount of shield value in the deck inherently, and not being able to get just that very aggressive turn 3 from the Genesis side of things, despite having such a good setup as well. Unfortunately, just losing to the raw amount of attacks, not finding the defensive triggers from Vanquisher's side of things.
Yeah, it was a really weird way to see that, like, almost like slip out of his hands, right? Like, he had 3 counter blocks on turn 2, we saw double Arcturus draw a card, we saw the Glepnir soul charge another one, like, and he was soul charging clean, like, he was going through clean cards in his deck, so he was favored to, like, find the pieces he needs, get triggers, and really set up for his big turn. And then he just rode the Eos Anesis and just didn't do anything. So despite the Vanquisher player not having even remotely close to an ideal setup or attack pattern, or even combo, he was, again, like you said, just a raw number of attacks, just a raw number of times, like, 5k shield please, 10k shield please, was still just more than he could handle. And like, as we saw, freeze frame to the very end there, his hand at the end was just 3 Valkyrians and an Eos Anesis, which is, 0, like, is 1 PG and then 2 0 shield cards. Like, he can PG 1 Chutora, but then he still has to take the second one, and if he does that, he has nothing to do next turn. Yeah, so as always, subscribe to the channel, like the video. There's still more VGCS commentary coming your way very soon, so be sure to stay tuned if you want to see more of those. Don't go anywhere, we'll see you around next time. Bye bye.